We're always involved in PSYOPs, all the time. MKUltra was the beginning of a psychological arms race.
What do we not know about CIA and their capabilities?
Number one, it's the most magnetic human trait. It draws people to you. The highest performing individuals on planet Earth are doing this.
Can you give some of the most successful PSYOP government has used?
Dude, this one will keep you up at night. This guy had a plan with J. Edgar Hoover to hypnotize a German submarine captain and send this guy back into his port and torpedo the entire German fleet. The average person can be talked into murder in about an hour.
He says genetics loads the gun, personality and psychology aim, experience pulls the trigger.
That's the most beautiful way I've ever heard it described. Everyone who's at the very, very top of the top does this.
Tell me more. It's not every day we have a guest on that trains intelligence agencies. So think about DIA or CIA. That's what our guest today, Chase Hughes, does. And by the way, it was so interesting talking to him. Of course, I had him react to Diddy's interview on Breakfast Club when he was asked if he killed Tupac. And he breaks down his body language. Yes, did we have him react to the envelope that was given to President Bush, to Obama's, to Clinton's, to see? Yes, he reacted to it. However, what if I told you he's going to break down by where you have a lot of wrinkles on to say if you smile a lot, if you're curious a lot, and if you're a psychopath, purely based on the wrinkles on your face. So you may not want to watch this because you may watch this and you may have a big argument with your husband. You're going to say, babe, according to this guy, you may be a psychopath or you don't smile enough. We broke down a lot of different things as we're going through it. I asked him a question. One of the things he helps is helping executives hire C-suite executives that are part of multi-billion-dollar companies. And he broke down the one question he asks before he hires them to identify if people are good people to hire or not. And when he helps with lawyers and they're interviewing jurors, he said to know whether we keep certain jurors or not, there's one question we ask. This guy's a body language specialist. He breaks down PSYOPs with what's going on with drones today, or Luigi Mangione, or the Cybertruck. He breaks it down in a way where you're going to look at PSYOPs in a very, very different way. With that being said, something tells me you're really going to enjoy this sit down with Chase Hughes.
30 seconds.
Did you ever think you would make it? I feel I'm so close I could taste sweet victory. I know this life meant for me.
Adam, what's your point? The future looks bright.
My handshake is better than anything I ever signed. It's right here.
You are a one of one?
My son's right about
I don't think I've ever said this before.
How you doing?
Good, man.
It's good to
Thanks
have
for
you
having me
on. Yeah, I was telling you 6 weeks ago, I watched this video of yours about the drones and all this stuff and, hey, how to identify PSYOP. And I'm sitting there watching this. I'm like, this is great. And I talked about it on the podcast exactly the way that you broke it down and then looked into your background. Obviously, I've seen you. You've done a lot of great work over the years. And I said, I'd love to have this guy on to get a different angle on what's going on. 20-year vet, Navy. You worked on a spy mission with a boat that you said was 85 feet. I'm curious to get into that and a few other stories that you have, especially with all the craziness that we got going on in the world today.
Yeah.
So right off the bat, okay, to go to someone with your background, to the average person, when you hear the word PSYOP, look at for PSYOP, the drones. We allowed them from November 18th for 6 weeks, and we're not doing anything about it. Hey, look over here, but something's going on over here. How does the average person, want to identify PSYOP or even consider the concept of a PSYOP?
Man, that's a good question. I think the average person just looking at what's going on we're always involved in PSYOPs all the time. And when I say PSYOPs, there's a part of the U.S. Army that's special operations, that's PSYOPs. And when we say PSYOPs here, we won't be referring to like this is the U.S. Army. We're talking about just general psychological operations here. But if you're seeing large-scale things happen, the first thing you want to look at is what's the timing of this event and what's the context of what's going on. And then right away, what is the information that's being suppressed and what's being forced out into the public? Like these passports that happened and the ID card that was found in this guy who burned in a Tesla. Like somehow this thing mysteriously
You're talking
survived.
about Matt Liversberger, who his Cybertruck exploded in front of the Trump Tower.
Yeah. So like what is information suppression and availability, and what's the timing of what's going on? Like, is there something else happening? So like, is a political candidate about to transfer power, or is something going on somewhere else that this could be some kind of distraction for? So we just go back to the, like, if you learn magic and you get a magic kit when you're a kid and they teach you like, well, shake your hand over here. Let me just do this thing. It's very basic. I'm just going to do a big thing over here to draw people's attention away. So we tend to think like there's some highly advanced technology going on to harness the power of a psyop, but it's usually pretty simple.
So for you, Chase, the average person sees the drones. Oh, it's the drones going on. The average person sees, with the Cybertruck and the whole ID that you're talking about, and then Sean Ryan and his crew talking about that email. When the average person sees it, they look at it at face value. Here's what happened.
Yeah.
How do you view it when you see it?
The first thing I'm looking at is what's the incentive here? Is there somebody that's going to gain from this being public or this being exposed to the public? And if you just look at the last few years, anything that we want to normalize to the public, we start out small. So we start out with these Freedom of Information Act releases like UAPs, drones, UFOs, all this stuff. And then these whistleblowers will come forward and start going on podcasts and they've been on Joe Rogan. They've been all over the place. So it started like this massive amount of information flux.
We had a couple of those. We had one of the guys on as well, if you're talking about the UFO whistleblowers.
Yeah.
Interesting business model. Keep going.
And who was the guy that you just had on? I watched it on the plane on the way over here. Dr. What was his name?
Stephen Greer?
Stephen Greer.
Okay.
Most believable guy I've ever seen from a body language perspective. Like he is very believable. There's some guys that I think are less credible. But if you just look at this release of information, and when I see the drones as a behavioral expert, I'm seeing this is a logical expansion of that narrative. This is just the next logical step in a normalization process. So we're normalizing these drones, and we're normalizing the aerial phenomenon, and then all of this stuff happening, we don't know what the end goal is. So if you're looking at a PSYOP, the end goal of all PSYOPs is to modify or shape behavior of a crowd of people, a group of people. So what would be the end result or the desired end result for somebody to shape a behavior of a country or a populace? So we want to normalize it, but then you got to go into, and I'm not going to speculate on this, but the next step is why? Why would this need to be normalized? What would the next step after that be?
So you got one incentive. Who benefits from this, right? Mm-hmm. And you were going somewhere. So the business format is, here's aliens, crisis, scare everybody. Hey, potentially we need, because of this, and then you bring those. So you're saying the level of advancement of the way they would do it is, boom, claim this guy's a whistleblower, that he's going up against the government, where in reality he's actually representing them, trick the populace to believe in that he is on your side, and be careful with this. And the whistleblower increases confidence in saying, yeah, don't trust the government when it comes down to this, but this is what's really going on, which in reality, that's exactly what the government wants to relate to you, and then trick the populace into distracting them from what the really is going to be. Is that kind of what you're saying? That's the business model?
Definitely possible. And I'm not casting aspersions on anybody, but I'm always suspicious if someone's coming out as a whistleblower when they have a list of what I'm allowed to talk about and what I'm not. And when a whistleblower comes out with, I can't talk about that, I'm limited to speak on that, then they have a list of speaking points. And that makes me a little suspicious.
Do you have any examples of it?
Yeah. So I'm not going to mention any names, but you'll probably know who I'm talking about. You see somebody that comes out as a whistleblower, and they start talking about all these programs, and a podcast host is going, okay, well, tell me more about, are we doing this? Are we doing surgeries on these guys? Do we have these little alien creatures locked in a jar somewhere? They're like, oh, I can't mention that. That's the end of the road of what I'm allowed to talk about. And they're people with speaking points is what it is.
They're people. And so you mentioned Stephen Greer. Why'd you bring up Stephen Greer? Did you bring him up because you believe he is a PSYOP, or did you bring him up to say, no, that's a guy that actually believed that what he's saying is correct?
I believe Stephen Greer. Absolutely.
You believe him?
Yeah, and I just watched it yesterday when I was flying down here, and I watched the whole entire episode. And
you've never met Stephen?
Never met him.
Okay.
But every time I've seen him talk, he's okay with ambiguity. He's okay saying, I don't know that. We see so many people that are certain about everything. They know the reason, they know the why, they know maybe the star system that some kind of craft came from. They're certain. And I see the more certainty that I see in somebody, the less credible I tend to see them. I'm a little more suspicious, let's just say that. And he is okay with ambiguity and saying, like, I don't know what this is or what it's for, but this is the fact.
Can you give some of the most successful PSYOPs in the past that the government has used?
Dude, this one will keep you up at night. Can we type something in on the screen?
Yeah, of course.
So type in PSYOP Vietnam Ghost. So this is Operation Wandering Soul. So they learned that the Vietnamese believe that the ghosts of people stay around, and you can communicate with them sometimes, you can hear from them sometimes. So we found a way to kind of hack into the North Korean radio systems and had dozens of voices of ghosts that would play like phantoms over the radio and say, I can't believe what I did. I should have surrendered. I could still be with my family if I just surrendered. And this is like, you can hear the tape is right there, but it's haunting. And it was a really good program.
So Vietnamese culture calls for a proper burial, becoming a wonder. So it is the Vietnamese belief that the dead must be buried in their homeland, or their soul will wander aimlessly in pain and suffering. Vietnamese feel that if a person is properly buried, then their soul wanders constantly. They can sometimes be contacted on the anniversary of their death and near where they died. Vietnamese honor these dead souls on a holiday when they return on site where they died. The U.S. used this to their advantage and tricked their Vietcongs into leaving by playing the audio recording of their dead friends. Are you kidding me?
It's insane.
And is that the example of what it sounds like? That they actually have a recording of it?
Yeah.
Let's hear it. So what is this? What are we listening to?
So it's just some ceremonial music, but then the voices come in, and
Can we fast forward a little bit?
So now it sounds like a haunted house. Like, remember when you buy like a cassette tape of Halloween noises?
Yes.
That's kind of what it sounds like.
And what did this do? How successful was this operation?
I think it was very successful. I think a lot of people either chose to return home or so they could be buried at the right place, or to surrender so that they didn't get killed and they could make it back to their family. So this is a great example of it. But when it comes to behavior, here's one of the biggest things. If I could divert really quick.
Yeah.
The biggest thing that you can ever understand about human behavior is that human beings tend to overvalue language.
Human beings tend to overvalue language.
Yeah. So I teach persuasion and influence for a living.
Okay.
I don't teach PSYOPs all the time. I train PSYOPs maybe once a year. And that's at Fort Bragg. So when it comes down to, let's just take a basic example of sales, a sales team. Somebody says, well, I need a better script. I need a better thing for the phone. What do I say? Or somebody, let's say the top sales guy at a company has this record number of sales. What does the management do? They're like, okay, what is he saying? Not who is he, it's what is he saying? And that's the biggest mistake. It took me 15 years to learn this mistake that our species makes is we value language so much. And I've studied neuroscience for the past 7 years. And there is no structure in our brain designed for language. We have one for vision, for smell, for touch, motor control, all this other stuff. There's no hierarchical structure in our brain for language. It's because it's pretty new to us as a species, and our brains haven't changed in 200,000 years. But we think, what do I need to say? And when I get clients, the first thing that clients ask me for is, we need a better script. I need more techniques and tactics. I need to know what to say. And I immediately go back, and we're 30 feet from an airport as we're sitting here right now. And I go back and I say, if I gave you a flight checklist, every single detail on it, for a Cessna 172, are you a pilot now?
No.
No. I mean, you can follow those little steps, but it's not going to make you fly the plane well. It's not going to make you do a good job. If I spent $50 million developing the most incredible sales script that's ever been written in the history of humankind, and I take that and I hand it to somebody who has social anxiety, and I tell them to go make a sale, it's not going to be very effective. So we fail to recognize as human beings that if I can influence that mammal part of the human brain, then I get results every time. And when it comes down to PSYOPs, it's the same thing. And that mammal part of our brain has 4 parts, or 4 things that influence it. And that spells out the word fate. And that's focus, authority, tribe, and emotion. Those 4 things. If you watch the most brilliant way to demonstrate this is if you just watch a video of Cesar Millan, the dog whisperer. He's training these dogs. He doesn't sit down and talk to these dogs and say, listen, I know you haven't had a great life. I know you were abused in the last home, but these are new people. They're great. They're great folks. That's a mammalian brain that we're dealing with. And it's the same thing for human beings. And I could show you some beautiful examples of how fast, you could talk a human being into murdering a total stranger. The average person could be talked into murder in about an hour.
What do you mean?
We're going to get into it if we have time.
Of course.
But that's the biggest mistake, that we need to understand what influences the mammalian part of the human brain, that focus, authority, tribe, and emotion. Those 4 things are what truly influence human beings. It's not about language. And I spent my whole life learning, or the beginning parts learning, what are the words I need to say? What's the sneaky little script that takes place? But if we look at, and this is all going to tie back into how we're being influenced by social media, and it's not the language we're hearing. It's not the reports of all this stuff is going down. These attacks are happening. Those words are almost meaningless to us. It's the imagery. And even if you're thinking about just a quick sidetrack to that, if you're setting goals, just writing goals down in language doesn't do as much as you've heard of vision boards before, doesn't do as much as that. So when I'm teaching my clients how to set goals, the first question I ask is, how could you show your dog what your goals are? If your goals are not written in a way that you could show it to a dog, you're a lot less likely to accomplish them. So we have to get down to the mammalian brain because it's in charge. So for anybody who thinks the human new part of our brain is in charge of us, try to hold your breath until you die. You can't. You can't do it. That mammalian brain is going to knock your ass out. You're going to be laid out on the floor. So that is one of the biggest things that we really need to understand, is that when we're talking about any of this influence, it comes down to that focus, authority, tribe, and emotion. And
go ahead.
There's an experiment that took place in the 60s. Is what I'm talking about here, when you get a stranger to murder somebody else. This is called the Milgram experiment. Are you familiar with it?
No.
Can we bring it up? Well, just maybe some images of it. So there is, let me just pretend like Patrick's a volunteer for this experiment.
Okay. See if you can pull it off.
Yeah. But I just want to put you in the scene here. You respond to an ad in the paper. It says Yale University is doing an experimentation on learning and the power of learning. And you take the ad in the paper. They say, we'll give you a lunch voucher or a Subway sandwich or something for participating. So you take it up there, you go into this building, you go into a hallway, there's another guy there. You're both volunteers. There's a guy in a lab coat that's running this thing. And he says, we're going to draw straws. For one of you will be the teacher and one will be the learner. So the other guy draws the learner straw. He goes to you, you become the teacher. Unbeknownst to you, this other guy's a volunteer. He's in on it. You're the only person participating in the experiment. This guy in the lab coat walks you into this little room, which you can see like an above view right there, where the T is, that's teacher.
The top right. So the T is the teacher, the E is you.
The E is the experimenter. That's
Okay.
the dude in the lab coat.
Okay.
So Patrick is the T right there. So they sit you down at this machine. They say, this is an electric shock machine. And it goes from like 30 volts all the way to the right where it says XXX danger extreme shock. And the goal is, so Patrick, you're going to read these little word groups to this guy in the other room. And before the experiment, they let you go into the other room right there, and you watch that guy get strapped to a shocking device.
The L.
Yeah, the learner. Yeah. So you watch that dude get strapped up to a learning device, and you're going to read these words out and see if he can remember them. And if he gets it wrong, you hit this button and deliver a shock. That wall right there is paper thin. It's just some drywall. So you can hear him go, you can, oh, for some of those intro shocks. But every time he gets one wrong, you have to take that little slider and move that voltage up one notch and shock him again. So the guy keeps getting it wrong, Around 250 volts, he's screaming every time. Around 275, he's saying, I have a heart condition. I want to stop. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to stop. I'm done with this. Come get me out of here. Around 400 volts, there's no more reaction. It's total silence, and he's not even answering the questions anymore. So you turn back around to this guy in the lab coat, and you're like, he's not answering these questions anymore. And the guy in the lab coat says, it's important that you continue. The experiment requires that you continue. So any non-answer must be treated as an incorrect answer. Please continue. So you keep reading out these words into a microphone, and shocking, increase, shock, increase, all the way to this 450 extreme thing. So before this experiment took place, these psychiatrists got together and they said, how many people are going to go through with this? Who's going to go all the way and kill somebody? Or so they think they're going to kill somebody. The shocks are not real. And they thought 0.8%. You have to be a psychopath. You have to want to hurt people. And in reality, 67% of people went all the way. All the way. This is a big deal. So Stanley Milgram's trying to find out, do people just respond to orders? Like the Nuremberg trials were going on, and these Nazis were saying we were just following orders. So Dr. Milgram says, let's test to see if that's true. So 250 volts is enough to kill you, right? And 100% of people went up to 250 volts. 100%. So there's a lot going on there, but none of it, the guy in the lab coat didn't have some secret hypnosis trick. He didn't have some sales script.
How many questioned it? How many said, no, I don't want to do it? And what was the incentive for the student to do this, to continue doing this?
There wasn't an incentive. It was obedience to authority was the main thing. There's a tall guy in a lab coat who looks like an official, looks like a doctor, and Dr. Milgram hypothesized that they undergo something called an agentic shift, where they become an agent on behalf of an authority figure. Does that make sense?
Yes. So I would have to trust to see that there is some sort of authority and somebody I'm trusting that's doing this. But there would have to be credibility with the individual that's asking me to continue doing this.
Yeah. But the credibility is novelty is first. So if you go back to our ancestral roots, let's say 10,000 years ago, let's say you and I lived in a tribe together, and every day you and me go out and we fish, and that's our job, to bring fish back. And every day we pass by this giant-ass bush, and one day we're coming back to our village together, we're carrying the fish, and behind that bush we hear a stick snap. Where is both of our focus? Right there. We're not thinking about our kids. We're not thinking about anybody back at home.
Sure.
Only on that stick.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we call novelty. So when something is new or unexpected, it generates a tremendous amount of focus. And then focus leads, so focus, authority, tribe, and emotion. So focus comes first. You respond to a newspaper ad you've never done before, into a building at Yale University you've never been to meet two guys you've never met, into a room you've never been in front of a machine that you've never seen before, reading these lists you've never seen before. Everything is brand new. So we have a tremendous amount of novelty, which generates focus. And the second, once I have focus, you start becoming hyper responsive to authority. So now we have this guy in a lab coat that's saying, you need to shock this dude in the other room. And this experiment's been repeated many, many times with very similar results. And now you're all in. Once you deliver that first shock, that's an agreement. You've made an identity agreement. It's just like the foot in the door technique with sales. Because once you've made a tiny little agreement at the beginning, now I've redefined who I am as a person. I am the person that's participating in this experiment. You've made that agreement. So it's focus, authority, and now you don't want to be seen as somebody who's disrupting everything. So now we have tribe. Does this make sense?
Yes. The theory I heard with this, I think we spoke about it with one of the mobsters that we had on the podcast, was it's a lot easier when somebody's giving you an order to kill someone because you're not doing it.
Yeah.
I need you to take out Johnny.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it. You told me to do it.
Right.
So great, I'll go and take him out. So I got 18 hits. Not really, I don't have 18 hits. It's 18 hits that were ordered for me to go and do. Hey, take the shot. Like in this movie Homestead, the father tells the boy to take the shot. And the boy kills a person in the movie Homestead. And the boy doesn't know how to deal with it. But he took the shot, not because he took the shot. He took the shot because the father told him to take the shot.
Yeah.
Now, the part I want to know about is the 33% of people that didn't continue, 67% that did. The 33 that didn't, what did they learn about them? Was there a certain profile? Was it, this doesn't make any sense to me. Was it their questioning authority? What did they learn about the people that didn't continue?
The people that didn't continue had a higher level of autonomy, and their locus of control was very, very internal.
Locus of control, meaning?
Like, am I in charge of my results, or is it the environment?
Right.
And like I train attorneys all the time. We do trials and jury selections and stuff like that. And when we want to determine locus of control, because you're allowed to ask the jury one or two questions.
Sure.
And strike them if you want. We just ask them, how does somebody catch a cold? That's it. So you get one group of people that says, well, there's kids wiping their boogers all over the escalator handles. There's people coughing all over the place. People don't wear masks. People are just absolutely inconsiderate. If they're sick, they get out of the house. They don't stay home. They're just inconsiderate bastards. You hear the other person say, well, I didn't take care of my health. I didn't wash my hands. I didn't sanitize. I didn't wear a mask. It's all about them. So that's a perfect way to determine locus of control, just in one little quick question. So those people had a very strong internal locus of control. And that's like, if you're a parent out there, anybody that's a parent, I know you have kids that are like 11, 12 right now. When they go to the doctor, I let them know you are in charge. That doctor is your employee. They will leave when you tell them to leave. You ask all the questions that you want to ask. And you say, come over here, take a look at this. So you're in charge of everything. You have a rash under your arm because there's some deodorant that that made a red mark. Ask them. You can do anything you want. Ask them anything you want. So you want to teach your kids to have that locus of, you're not domineering, you're not ordering the doctor around, but you are understanding like he's there for you. And you're in charge of the situation. You can dictate what happens. So giving them that agency of you can determine your outcomes in life is so important. And that's where we have things like white coat syndrome, or there are people that get misdiagnosed from doctors and still suffer the symptoms. So they get a diagnosis of something they don't have and start developing symptoms right away.
There's another word for that as well. White coat syndrome.
Nocebo.
Right. staying on this topic, I want to go to another one, but I want to finish it up with this one here on parenting. So what other mistakes do parents make when parenting a child? I mean, this is a very interesting point you made, that, hey, that doctor you're paying them, they work for you. So what do you want to learn from them while you're with them? It's a different mindset. Instead of, hi, doctor, authority, yes, okay, I'll do that. Why do I need to do that? Does this work? Why would I take this? Why would I do that? Why are they saying this? Like, you're teaching a different mindset.
Yeah.
What else are you teaching kids?
The number one thing that I would say anybody could teach their kid, and I wish I could go back, and I did 9 deployments over my career. So I missed out on like half my kid's life. It's the biggest trauma for me, is not having been there. But you've seen The Ultimate Gift?
Of course. Read the book, bought 1,000 copies, gave it to everybody. It's an incredible book.
Yeah,
Jim
it's the
Stovall.
best. Yeah. It's better than the movie. If anybody
I agree.
out there,
I agree.
The book's better than the movie. It's one of those books that, if you're a successful person, you buy multiple copies because you know I'm going to give this to as many people as I can. But getting your kids to a point where they no longer see the world through hierarchy. So I'm in a position, and I teach people to have confidence and authority. Like we can definitely get into this if you want to, like the elements of what tricks a human brain into seeing an authority figure. What is it that tricks that mammalian brain? But the biggest mistake that most people make is, in order for me to have confidence, in order for me to have authority, I need to have some understanding of hierarchy. I need to be above other people. If I'm an authority, I have to be above Patrick on this podcast. I've got to be better or higher, or like seeing the world through hierarchy will ruin your life. So when we're talking about that doctor example, they're working for you and they're your partner. They're your partner in this. So all the ways that people mess up in business, and I'm sure you've learned this lesson many times. I'm still having to learn it, but is I see the world through hierarchy, which automatically means I'm going to see competition instead of collaboration. So it becomes a competitive instead of a collaborative environment, which is not very good for life. It's not good for kids. But getting out of that mindset of seeing hierarchy. So if you have true authority, you have true confidence, is no longer about me being better than anybody else. If there's anything that we're comparing ourselves with somebody else's, can I be more comfortable than the other person in the room? And that's it. Just can you be more comfortable? So if you have an 8, 9, 10-year-old, I want to challenge you to move slower than every other kid in your class today. Just can you do that for one day? So you're going to teach them to kind of get control over their body and just slow down and be more in control. So you kind of get the physiological part moving first, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What else?
And those are the building blocks of authority. And when it comes down to...
And what's the main objective of moving slower? Does it mean you're in control? Does it mean nothing rattles you? What is the significance of that?
It helps to relax your body. So we can dig into hypnosis as much as you want to, but when a hypnotist is talking to you and they're like, oh yes, all your muscles are relaxing. Yes, those little muscles around the eyes, the scalp relaxing. It's making your body, it's forcing your physiology to get to a place where your brain starts releasing safety chemicals. And our number one safety chemical on our brain is called GABA. And GABA is just basically what hypnosis is. GABA chemicals going into the brain and then getting our brain into something called a theta brainwave state. Bring it up. So it's gamma aminobutyric acid. So it's an inhibitory neurotransmitter. It's kind of like the RA in the college dorm that tells everybody to turn the music down, just calm down, it's lights out. That's kind of what it does. It just inhibits excitement in the brain. So if you're doing that, if I'm teaching my child to get control, and this is what I would teach my clients. This is what I teach clients that are 20 years older than me, that are big business owners and stuff. If I can get you to get control over your physiology, your psychology is going to follow next.
If I can get you to control your physiology, your psychology is going to follow next. Yeah, I mean, that's part of that is in sales as well, right? But for kids, going back to the kids, if And, you're telling young boys, they're energized, they're running around, they're fired up, they're fighting, they're competing, they're playing sports, all this stuff. Move slower, right? What is, tell me because I agree. I'm just trying to see where you're going with it for the audience to see this part.
Yeah.
What is the benefit of them doing that?
The benefit is gaining control over self, getting control over yourself. So you're not bringing them home and saying, all right, I want you to sit down here and meditate on this yoga mat for 45 minutes.
Right.
And kids aren't going to do that.
Right.
But you are saying you're getting this slow little steps of evolving. So increasing and evolving levels of self-control. And it starts with those bodily movements. And you're not telling some kid, especially a young boy, you're not saying sit still. That's very different. But you are saying just move a little slower. And it's not at PE. PE, that's your job to move fast. But every other time throughout the day, move slower than the other people. Just gaining some dominion over your body.
Very interesting when it comes down to that with parenting, especially the moving slower part. Because even when I think about people, you watch them how they interview, right? You watch certain people how they're interviewed. You watch certain people the way they speak, right? Because this would be completely against what a Tony Robbins would be. Moves fast, talks fast, energy high, but yet he still is under control. If you talk to people who are on the set with Tom Cruise, walks fast, moves fast. But if you watch his interview with Matt Lauer, which I'm sure you've seen many times, when he's talking about, Matt, you don't know what you're talking about. I've spent 20 years studying this topic, right? You know which one I'm saying. How do you explain that with the moment of Matt Lauer and Tom Cruise, where he all of a sudden gets into a very elevated state? And this is a guy that studied body language with Scientology, Dianetics, L. Ron Hubbard, David Miscavige. In that community, they teach this a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And it's
good.
Right.
Those teachings in Scientology are actually pretty good.
So what would you say for some people like a Tony Robbins or a Tom Cruise? Would you say they're not applying and it's working for them? And does this apply to everybody, or it's different for different personalities?
Here's the ultimate answer. They are at a point where they are so in control of themselves that no matter what their behavior is, they still exude authority.
Makes sense.
Because there's 5 elements to what makes authority in a human being, according to me anyway. And that is confidence, discipline. And discipline is not something other people can really see right away. But if you and I were sitting at an airport or something, and I said, Pat, just find somebody who's super disciplined, you could do it within a few minutes. So discipline is something that we don't profile consciously, but we process it in a gut feeling way, where we've had a conversation with somebody where they've read those articles on LinkedIn of 15 ways to exude powerful body language, like a CEO. Stand taller, give a firm handshake, make better eye contact, all of that kind of stuff. But you and I both met people that have all of those traits, but something was off. Like after that conversation, it was like something was not right about this conversation, because all of that, the gut feelings didn't line up. And all of us are in the business of giving other people gut feelings, whether you want to be or not. It's, am I doing it right? So that's confidence, discipline, leadership, gratitude, and enjoyment. Those are the 5 things that trigger the human brain to think this person is an authority figure.
This person is an authority figure.
So it's a gut feeling. It's not a conscious decision.
The last 2 are interesting. So I get gratitude, enjoyment.
Mm-hmm.
Enjoyment means this guy's enjoying his life. He enjoys what he does. What is the benefit of having that energy?
Overall, or
Yes.
just the enjoyment?
Just the enjoyment. Specific, the last one you shared.
Number 1, it's the most magnetic human trait. It draws people to you. So you're way more likely to be a leader if you have not enjoyment as in you're celebrating, shooting out confetti cannons all day long.
Right.
But just enjoyment is I'm enjoying the present moment, and I think the future looks bright. Like
Yes.
I have a generalized expectation that things are going to be all right in the future.
There's something very attractive about that. And by the way, you said something. I want to go back to the Matt Lauer, Tom Cruise, and I want to see you react to it because you're a body language one. But I want to stay on this. So, you said there are people that you watch and you're like, something's off, right?
Yeah.
Something's different. I would have guys in sales that I would work with, and I would watch them on stage, and they were good on the big stage. But then behind closed doors, something was off. You know, what they said didn't match what they were doing.
Yeah.
There was a contradiction in the behavior.
Yeah.
They were telling other people to go prospect, but they were not doing it. They were telling other people to work hard, but they were not doing it. And that, you know, what's the word? Not hypocrisy. It's that contradiction was shown in the action. Can somebody say something long enough over and over and over again and not live it, or will there eventually be a crack and a break in the individual?
I think there's always going to be a break, but it won't be physical. Like it's not going to be super obvious, but there's going to be over time, there's going to be gut feelings that people get. Something is not right. And we call that incongruency, right? So when what I tell every one of my clients is the way that you're behaving off camera when nobody's looking is going to affect every conversation that you have. So if I'm out there saying you need to be up at 4:30 in the morning, I better damn well be doing that. And if I'm saying you need to do this with your life, I should be doing those things. And that's where you have any sales team I've trained. I just finished a BMW training, and the number one thing that we took away, we have an assessment. It's an authority assessment to tell how much authority you have in your life and exact points of where you're lacking. I'll even give it to you. You can put it in a PDF in the show notes or whatever. But it's an authority assessment. And that was the biggest problem. Everybody that had low sales numbers had different behavior off camera. So they weren't being themselves. And it sounds so stupid, just like you hear in elementary school. Well, just be yourself, honey. You just go out there and just be yourself. But it goes a little deeper than that. And it's just like you be yourself, but what kind of self are you? You need to become something that is okay with you showing out in public.
Did you ever read Psycho-Cybernetics?
Oh, yeah.
What a book.
It was my intro. My grandmother had that book. Yeah.
40 million copies sold, and most people don't even know about the book.
I know it. I had a hardback first edition that my grandmother had. It was amazing.
So what did your grandma do? Did she play the role in you becoming you, or was she the influence?
Maybe a pretty big influence. And her husband, my grandfather, was a senator. So there was a lot of kind of that slow movement and master your mindset will dictate your outcome.
Yeah, because to me, you know, in the previous company I was a part of, when I was younger, my favorite speaker was the guy that would move fast and walk around and run around all this. And then the more I matured, I was no longer as in tune with the way he delivered his message. It didn't work anymore. It worked more when the other guy would speak and he would get up. Hi. So let me just start off by saying, had a great conversation with my wife earlier and da-da-da-da-da. And I remember, and this was the pace.
Yeah.
Right? Now, he knew how to go when he was trying to make his point to go into, let me tell you, this is one of the reasons when I think about when I was 28 years old, da-da-da-da. Like, okay, there's a place for it. But to me.
I could tell you why.
Tell me.
I don't want to interrupt you, though.
No, go ahead. I'm curious.
So when we're young, especially you and I were both in the military, we're almost the same age. I'm 43. When I was in the military, I joined when I was 17. And I was in a state of, I need to be pumped up. And I saw the world through hierarchy. And that was just kind of a default mode for me. I'd just come out of high school and all this. So if we draw a pendulum, and on the far end, on the far right side, we have something called posturing. And on the far left, we have collapse. And if I'm young enough to where I don't know the world yet, I will lean into collapse every once in a while. Even if I'm big, even if I have confidence, I'm going to start collapsing. But what's attractive to me at a young age are people that posture, because that looks like it's the opposite of where I am. It's not the middle of that
Yeah.
pendulum, because we haven't talked about the middle of the pendulum yet. But it looks, I'm over here on this side of the pendulum. The opposite looks like the solution. And that's a huge problem that a lot of people have is I'm going to go to the opposite of where I am. The center of that between posturing and collapse is composure. And the more we kind of start drifting there, we see that that's the answer. And we're more attracted to people that have that level of composure that we're seeking. We're no longer seeking that posturing thing anymore. And the best example I could ever think of for this is Andy Griffith. It's like the ultimate example of what authority is, the confidence, the leadership, discipline, gratitude, enjoyment, and living in composure. And that's, you have guests on here every once in a while that are very high energy, very, very high, and they're a little bit out of composure. And you've had arguments on this show, which I've seen a couple of times. Man, you had Alex Jones on here, I think last year.
Mm-hmm.
And
don't forget the great Anthony Weiner. I
didn't see that.
No, that's the one you want to watch. You missed out because that's the most entertaining one.
I'm going to watch it.
It's a good body language one to watch.
I'll send you a report.
you will be entertained.
Okay. So I think when it comes down to composure, Andy Griffith is such a great example, and you are as well. And I'm not saying this to just blow smoke up your ass, but when those people, you can see it in many different episodes of yours, that when people are here and they're freaking out, you're the one that says, all right, hold on a second. And you kind of bring a little composure. Your composure is contagious. So that's when you tell leadership is this person's behavior contagious to the people around them? That's the measure of leadership.
I love that composure is contagious because that's good, right? Because you're able to lower the temperature if you have composure. And that makes a lot of sense to me. But let's go into a little bit of the personality side. And then I want to show a couple clips. I want to get your reaction. A couple of them are selfish. I just want to kind of see when you're studying the body language of, Diddy, and when he's being asked about Tupac, how he reacts to it. I want to know what you say about it. But
all right.
A few things. So how do you tell apart between a psychopath and a sincere person? Because they're so close, right?
It's tough.
So, for me, I've been in sales for 25 years, and I have had relatives that were bipolar that you had to kind of have a 30-second conversation with them to kind of see what person is showing up today.
Yeah.
And it normally would take about 30 seconds for me to be like, okay, I know who's here today.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, cool. But over the years, when you go through different clients, different agents, employees, investors, you kind of have to size people up to see where they're at.
Yeah.
How do you do it?
All right. So I love that you asked this. So I get hired by companies a lot to do kind of employee screenings and all this kind of stuff. And there's a company out there, I can't say the name, but it's a medical company. They make medical instruments.
Employee screening.
Yeah, for C-suite. They want to find people that, they're hiring for C-suite, and it's a big deal. I mean, it could be a $1 billion mistake. So they say we want to screen out these guys that have extremely high narcissism, sociopathy, psychopathy. So I developed this 5-page checklist that they could kind of have somebody take this assessment that would trick someone into revealing some of those traits. And then this took me months, and then I gave it to them, and they're like, no, we mean just what's one question we can ask? So, of course, they want, we want instant, immediate results, like there's some kind of Harry Potter wizard spell that they can do that's going to reveal this person. Mm-hmm. So it took me a while, but we came up with the question. And the question is, what's the biggest thing you learned about yourself in that stressful time, that experience, that past relationship? Fill in the blank. And I mean, this would work on a speed date. What of the biggest thing you learned about yourself? And the answer is that
it's specific to a difficult time. Is it specific to a difficult time, or what's the most important thing you learn about yourself, period?
Specific to a difficult time.
Okay, got it.
Or a stressful time. So for some people, they're going to say, well, I learned that I have a tendency to overdo things, or I lost my temper, or I did something wrong, you'll get genuine lessons from most people. And when you have, and this is not some definitive test. So anybody listening, this is not some crazy perfect test. But with the other people, you're a lot more likely to hear things like, I learned that I shouldn't trust companies right away. I should be a little more skeptical about what I'm getting myself into. I learned that I shouldn't make business deals unless I fully know somebody's background because people aren't very trustworthy. Most people aren't trustworthy. So you're going to hear like all kinds of blame shifting, even in the relationship question. Like, well, I learned that I shouldn't open myself up to a partner right away because they're going to cheat on me. They're going to lie to me. So it's always somebody else's fault. And that's to this day, that's the first thing that they ask in interviews.
It's so, and have you heard what Elon Musk says his interview question is?
No.
Can you pull up Elon Musk's interview question? Elon Musk's interview question. If you go on YouTube, just put that same thing in YouTube, and he explains it in a video. Just do a copy paste. It should come up. And it's a short clip. I think it's that one. Elon Musk talks about only 2 questions you can tell me about your level. Okay, right there. Let's watch that one. If you want to skip go for it.
It's always the same. It's just. I said, tell me the story of your life, and the decisions that you made along the way and why you made them, and then, and also tell me about some of the most difficult problems you worked on and how you solved them. And that question I think is very important because the people that really solved the problem, they know exactly how they solved it. They know the little details. And the people that pretended to solve the problem, they can maybe go one level and then they get stuck.
It's so true.
I love that.
I love that, right?
That's great.
But what you just said is very important because it goes back to tell me how you get a cold, right? Kids. Worldview, other people's fault. I didn't do it. I didn't get sick. Boom. Tell me how you got sick. My immune system. I don't need enough vitamin.
Yeah.
I don't exercise as much as I used to. My cardio isn't as much. It's probably I got to get back to working out. Okay, so, all right, this person takes responsibility.
Yeah.
When you said this, you made me think about somebody I hired. And I told the story on Manect yesterday, which, by the way, Chase, you would be great on Manect. But a guy asked me a question about, hey, I'm hiring this person. This is what this person's saying to me. How should I handle this? Is this a good sign or not? And the question he's asking me on Manect is, this guy, he's been wanting to work for me for all these years, and he sat there and he says, look, I didn't work out with this company, didn't work out with that company, but I know for a fact we're going to do this because you're such a great leader, and I can't wait to work for you. I said, I'll never forget, I'm at Ohika Castle, which is a place in New York. I had rented this place out. And Rob, you can rent out pull up Ohika Castle. Nice place. They have the restaurant had great burrata cheese, which is the one thing I remember. And there's one guy who we had recruited at that time comes up to me. It's 2:00 in the morning. We're done with, cigars, food. We're having a good time. And he says, let me tell you my story. I used to be with this other insurance company. And those guys weren't as great leaders as the way you just handled this meeting. And I used to be with this other company for 6 years. And this other company with 3 years. And the more he's saying this to me, and he finishes, I said, can I tell you something? He said, yes. I said, in the next 2 to 4 years, I will be the guy you will be speaking negatively about in another company. Because all those 3 companies you just talked about, they all have great leaders. He said something about Primerica, New York Life, and Transamerica World Financial Group. I said, are you kidding me? They're all stacked with great leaders. I don't know what you're talking about. And the way he said it, it was just, I'm next. It's like you're going on a date with a girl. You watch to see how often they trash their ex.
Yeah.
You will be the next
You're
one.
the next.
Right? And it's a... But what else? Go back to the psychopath, because I've seen you psychoanalyze that one girl who was on Dr. Phil, if I'm not mistaken. What's the lady's name? The
Psychopath woman?
Not woman, girl, 14, 15 years old.
Erin Cathy.
Erin Cathy. Can you tell us about Erin Cathy?
Yeah, she was, it's Caffey, I think. This... Can you bring up an image to make sure we got the right one that Patrick's talking about?
And maybe even bring up the video with her and Dr. Phil. Right. Her interviews. I mean, I've seen her interviews. That is
Yeah. Terrifying.
terrifying.
Yeah. Truly. So this is psychopathy. That's pure psychopathy. And one thing I've noticed, this is my opinion, and other people may see something very similar.
Mm-hmm.
If you see somebody who's been happy their whole life,
Yep.
you're going to see the little crow's feet form right here, even around the age of 19 or 20. This is not like later in life. You're going to see them start to etch on the face because that's a very common expression that they make all day, throughout the day, very regularly. You see,
Hang on, stay on that. 'Cause that's very interesting. If you see somebody that's happy, can you go on the eyes, Rob, to see? Because I want you to be specific. Like, where do you see happiness shows where? If you can take the arrow to show what he's talking about.
right there.
There?
The crow's feet on the outer edge of the eye right here. Yeah.
And you'll see what? You'll see,
Little wrinkles from very frequent smiling.
and that shows from frequent smiling. So this person's lived a happy life.
Yeah, or they smile a lot.
Interesting. Okay.
So the one of our things is our emotional billboard is our forehead. And we do
I
this.
got a freeway. I got 4 or 5 freeway. I got 5, 6 lanes.
Yeah, mine's growing.
Yeah.
So I got there's this behavior we have called an eyebrow flash,
Okay.
which about 80% of people will return an eyebrow flash behavior without even knowing that they did it. That's how socially responsive we are. And notice this is everything we're talking about with authority and leadership and all this, none of that has anything to do with language.
None of it has to do with language.
So it's who we are, not
Okay.
what we say.
Right.
And so when it comes down to this eyebrow flash, it's this. When we raise our eyebrows while we're talking to somebody, maybe for emphasis, and we're kind of bringing our eyebrows up like this. So you'll see somebody who's very social. They'll have those lines on the middle of their forehead. Does this make sense so far?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So what if I told you to make a skeptical facial expression? Like you're really skeptical about some information. Somebody's selling you some bullshit. There
Okay.
it is. So
Right.
the lower part of the eye
Okay.
wrinkles up.
Right.
And what about when you're hearing information that you really want to pay close attention to? Your eyebrows will come down and squeeze together, which is yours. So you have those wrinkles.
Mm-hmm.
And this muscle right here is called the glabella. So that thing squeezes together. And you'll see people over time, yours is etched in there more than your forehead, more than anything else. So you're analytical, like taking in data, making sure you get it all, process everything perfectly. With our forehead being such an emotional billboard for connecting with other people, when we do this little eyebrow flash thing, you won't see those forehead wrinkles in psychopaths. I still haven't seen deep forehead wrinkles in a psychopath. That little connection, that emotional connection that we make to other people and how we express ourselves, and the eyebrows coming up. And if I could, I'll tell you a story from Dr. Robert Hare. He's the #1 researcher in psychopaths. And this is from his book on psychopathy. Dr. Hare is the one who wrote the checklist, the official, like, you're a psychopath checklist. So if you imagine, he says, I think Dr. Hare is only slightly wrong about one thing. He says that psychopaths are attracted to cities, and I think cities are more likely to manufacture psychopathy.
Tell me more.
So our brains are not designed, they haven't changed in 200,000 years. They're not designed for a gigantic tribe of people. So in order for us to survive in a city, empathy has to completely disappear. This is why we have things like the bystander effect, which maybe you've heard of it. So if there's people around, a large crowd, and you get stabbed or shot or anything, the more people around you, if you need help, the less likely you are to get help. So if I told you, I was like, Patrick, on the way down here, I saw a guy that was getting robbed and somebody was stabbing him, and a guy was filming the whole thing with his phone. He was just standing there filming the whole entire thing happening. Would you think that guy's probably a psychopath? The one filming it.
No.
No expression. It's just him and the other guy. Him and the guy getting killed, and he's filming the whole thing. Just watching.
What it made me think about is the lady who recorded George Floyd while the knee was on his neck, and everybody had a camera on recording it.
Yeah.
And we have incidents like this with many different events.
Yeah. That might have been different because of the authority of the police officer and nobody wanting to get in a fight with a cop.
Right. So I don't want, hey, get back, because
Yeah.
if you do, you could go to jail and get in trouble, right? But sometimes you'll see a fight taking place in high school and kids are boys beating up somebody. Everybody's got their phone out recording instead of wanting to jump in and help out.
Yeah.
So that's the example you're referencing.
Yeah.
Okay.
The death of empathy. So, and the second part of that, a slight extension of that is social media is an artificial tribe. So we go back to focus, authority, tribe, and emotion. So now I'm tricking that mammal part of your brain into thinking that your tribe is bigger than it is. Those aren't real people. They're way out there. They're not in your community. You don't have to worry about them. But that I can trick your brain to believe whatever I want just by making you think that your tribal members believe in that thing. So I can manipulate your mammalian brain just by showing you things. I can now we go back to the drones, I can normalize something just by overexposing it in front of lots of people, which goes back to the tribe again. But social media is an artificial tribe inside of our brain that even still is bigger than our brains are made to handle. They're made to handle small town, small environment, tribe of people. So when it comes down to the behavior of a psychopath, this story from Dr. Hare is the perfect way to describe what's going on inside of a psychopath's mind. So he talks about this psychopath, and he's in his apartment in a city one day, and he decides, I'm going to go get some tacos. So he leaves his apartment. He walks down the street. He's walking to a nearby place. As he's walking down to this taco place, he sees a car accident.
Mm-hmm.
And a mom is screaming and crying and holding her baby that has passed away, maybe a 2-year-old. And there's people onlooking and crying and screaming with her. The police are there trying to help her and stuff like that. And as he's staring at this incident unfolding inside of his head, here's what you're hearing. I think I want lettuce. I'm going to put lettuce on the tacos this time, maybe some sour cream. And then he turns and goes to get his tacos. And then walks back by the scene again, looks at it again, comes back home and eats. And then that night before he's going to bed, he's getting ready for bed. He's looking in his bathroom mirror going like this. Just trying to mimic all of those facial expressions of people grieving and being sad by the car accident. Just rehearsing those facial expressions. It's terrifying. It's terrifying to understand that there's no empathy in that person. So that's a pure psychopath.
So a pure psychopath, are you born that way? Because, when you think about this, again, I keep quoting this guy over and over again, who he was the first guy that would interview people, Jim Clemente. I don't know if you know who Jim Clemente is. He'd be the first guy to interview. This guy was an FBI guy he was an FBI profiler who would interview somebody who just killed their spouse.
Yeah.
And he'd be the first person to do it. And I asked him a question. I said, so what causes these guys to do it, the psychopaths? Specifically, I asked him about serial killers. He says, genetics loads the gun, personality and psychology aim, experience pulls the trigger. From your experience, that's what he said. So again, genetics loads the gun, personality and psychology aims, life experiences pulls the trigger.
That's the most beautiful way I've ever heard it described. Absolutely. So you can have tons of genetic markers that are just loaded up, ready to go in the gun, but they never get triggered because of life experiences. You're not going through any trauma. There's no huge stress. And stress is not just psychological. You can have physical stress, like getting sick as a kid. Getting sick as a baby can make those genes start to express themselves. It can really make our genes do weird stuff. We have babies that are born in the winter are more likely to have those genes express themselves because the mom might be sick during the childbirth. The baby might be sick in the younger days. That's not some guarantee or anything, but it's definitely well researched that winter-born babies can have genetic disadvantages when it comes to the brain.
Can a psychopath be saved?
I don't think so.
Okay, got it. So So
when a psychopath goes to therapy, what the therapist works with them on is, here's how to ask better questions. Here's how to make a face like you look like you're interested in something someone's saying.
Right.
It's all just, let me teach you how to fake your way in
he's
normal life.
Yeah, I track birthdays. When's your birthday, by the way? What month are you?
February
23. 23. Okay. No, February 16th is Michael. 6th is Reagan. My wife's 14th. My son is the 1st. So
all February.
Yeah,
Wow.
a lot of good Februaries. So, I'm just trying to see if there's any kind of... One of the things I saw about profile of... And I don't know if I would even categorically put him in psychopath, but while you're in business, you follow these guys. They're so good at making others feel sorry for them.
Yeah.
And sympathizing. You don't know what I went through. If you only knew, certain people don't like compliments. It's just like, don't flatter me. I don't want compliments. It's just, I'm good. Leave me alone. If it comes from good people that are close to you, I'll take it, but it's like, I'm good.
Yeah.
Don't feel sorry for me. We grew up in the never show hurt. My dad was the complete opposite side of that. But whenever you see somebody that is really always trying to make people around, and they're so good at it.
Yeah.
At how to get people to say, what a poor guy. Man, poor you. I can't believe she went through this. Unbelievable, right? And it works in so many different places until you meet somebody that's like, yeah, no.
So I call this fogging, and I use the acronym FOG. And that's fear, obligation, and guilt are the three master tools of these people. And this is psychopaths. This is extreme high-end narcissists, sociopaths, some people with borderline stuff. But if you're seeing a pattern of fear, obligation, and guilt, I did a whole video on my YouTube channel about this, like how to deal with a narcissist, what to say. Mm-hmm. But you have to recognize that I'm going to consciously choose to stay in this relationship or I'm out.
No, and by the way, it's not easy to do so, but if you accept it and you stay in it, they control you. And it's a lot of pain to go through while you're in it. Nowadays, more than ever, the brand you wear reflects and represents who you are. So for us, if you wear a Future Looks Bright hat or a Valuetainment gear, you're telling the world, I'm optimistic. I'm excited about what's going to be happening, but you're a free thinker. You question things. You like debate. And by the way, last year, 120,000 people got a piece of Future Looks Bright gear with Valuetainment. We have so many new things. The cufflinks are here. New Future Looks Bright. This is my favorite, the green one. Just yesterday, somebody placed an order for 100 of these. If you watch the PBD podcast, you got a bunch to choose from. White ones, black ones. If you smoke cigars and you come to our cigar lounge, we have this high quality lighter cutter and a holder for the cigars. We got sweaters with the Valuetainment logo on it. We got mugs. We got a bunch of different things. But if you believe the future looks bright, if you follow our content and what we represent with Valuetainment, with PBD Podcast, go to vtmerch.com. And by the way, if you order right now, there's going to be a special VT gift inside just for you. So again, go to vtmerch.com, place your order, tell the world that you believe the future looks bright. Now let's go back to, we talked about PSYOPs at the beginning, and we've gone to a bunch of different personalities right now. When you think about CIA, and you see what happened with the fellow who was the ISIS, the truck drives into New Orleans on the 1st, and same thing happened, not the same things. An event happens in Vegas, Matt Liversberg, and it's like, wait a minute, why would he be capable of doing that? Guy sends me a message on LinkedIn. And he says, I've known this guy. This is about Matt. This is about the guy that was a Green Beret, and I think Matt even did a History Channel show with Tim Kennedy. I don't know if you saw that or not. So
I saw a clip on X.
Right, I saw a clip as well on X. That's what I saw. So he sends me a message, this guy, and he says, look, I served with this guy. Matt and I were stationed in Germany together. We were both on special forces teams. Our teams trained and worked a lot together. I spent 4 weeks with him in Bordeaux, and in language training program, we drank Bordeaux pretty much every night. His wife came and visit, And he says, he was a good man, a leader, a mentor, and a father. I've spent time with him and his wife. This makes no sense to me. He had to have been targeted. Okay? A lot of people are saying this about him. Now, Luigi Mangione. Boom, boom. Everything is good, right?
Yeah.
And then, but he's missing the last 90 days. So you know when he went and what his motive was. So he had some stuff because he followed libertarians. He followed 70 people on Twitter. I was one of them he followed. But the range of people he followed are...
Well, you must be involved.
Yeah. But the range of people you studied, you would look at and say, hey, okay, those are guys you followed that teach independent, critical thinking. They're not like victimhood. Let me tell you, they're after you. It's not fair, all this other stuff, right? So, you know, you hear MK Ultra. Movie came out, MK Ultra, not a good movie, but somebody needs to do a good movie on that I think could do well. Yeah, he follows Bobby Kennedy. He follows a bunch of different people, right? Well, Brett Weinstein, we've had him on. He and I spoke the other day. Interesting people that this guy follows. John McAfee is definitely one of the interesting ones. We had him on like 8 years ago. But you see these patterns with events like this happening. John F. Kennedy, where you hear, you know, the shooter comes out and takes a shot and takes out, you know, it's like, wait, how did that happen? What do we not know about CIA and their capabilities? What do we not know? Because what we do know is the stuff that we read about. And you're a guy that's worked intelligence, you know, not intelligence. You did some warfare, spy warfare, and you're training these types of things, the methods. I think there's even a video about you that you made, that 25 ways CIA, you know, trains their agents, whatever it may be. But what is the capability of CIA and their training that we have that we don't know about?
I wouldn't even say it's CIA. I would say the agency that I've seen do a lot more internationally is DIA.
Okay.
But when it comes to MK Ultra, this was a scare. MK Ultra was a result of people being terrified. This happened in Korea when these American prisoners would go on videotape and say, I hate the United States, it's a bad country, I renounce citizenship and all this kind of stuff. And it was terrifying, and that became, MK Ultra was the beginning of a psychological arms race, is what it was. So they started all these experiments to find a truth serum. So they used hypnosis and LSD and all kinds of other drugs. And it was just bizarre, some of this stuff. Bring up, I want you to see the description of this. Can you bring up Project Midnight Climax? You heard of this?
Mm-mm.
So Sidney Gottlieb, who's the director at the time, is getting prostitutes to drug random dudes with LSD. And the scientists are behind a one-way mirror watching them in a hotel room. This is I think it was in San Francisco.
Hires prostitutes to give LSD, and then on the other side, there's somebody watching it?
Yeah.
Okay, so continue.
And I don't, that's a lot of what we know is just right there. And they're trying to do all these experiments, and then they're using hypnosis. And then this guy named George Estabrooks comes on the scene. He's a professor at this university called Colgate University in New York. And he wrote a few books about some of this stuff. Yeah, that's him. So I got access to this guy's, Dr. Estabrooks' personal files that were never deleted or part of there was what's called a destruction order from the agency.
Mm-hmm.
Right before all these secrets were about to come out, there's something called the Church Committee that was going to take all this stuff out. But right here, this guy had a plan with J. Edgar Hoover to hypnotize and split the personality of a German submarine captain and send this guy back into his port and torpedo the entire German fleet. Incredible plan. So they were experimenting with this personality modification, splitting people. And I can send you all these documents if you're interested in it. Or if you want to just throw them in a link for the show. So
Definitely interested in it. So whatever you send, we'll post it below. But personality modification.
Yeah. Splitting.
Personality splitting.
So there's two versions of a person that can be kind of turned on or turned off. So he does it to Army officers called this guy that he named Jones. And there was a Jones A and a Jones B. So he could send Major Jones through enemy territory, but the other personality had all these national secrets. So if Jones A was ever captured, Jones B won't ever come out because the code word and the little activation technique is not being done to bring out that B personality. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a lot of the stuff that was going on. And with a lot of MK Ultra led into this new era of propaganda. And this guy comes onto the scene. His name is Edward Bernays. You're familiar?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So he invents propaganda in the United States. He's the reason that we think bacon is part of breakfast. He's the reason that margarine is yellow. He was the reason women smoked Virginia Slims in the 60s, 70s, 80s. There's a million things. He's the reason that the Department of War changed to the Department of Defense. So all of these tiny little things got made. And
Possibly the greatest CMO of all time.
Yeah, big time. So he also invented the term public relations, so propaganda didn't confuse people. Very interesting guy, probably a bad dude. And he's also Sigmund Freud's nephew. In a weird turn of events, yeah. And you don't really see that very often when you read about him. So it gets into this. It kind of evolves, and the CIA is going crazy on this mind control stuff. Can we program assassins? This is the end result of this. So I'll tell you what's on record now is they were doing experiments to see if a person could be programmed to kill on command with one of these alter ego identities.
Edward Bernays.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, he's not. This is CIA and George Esterbrook. And
Okay.
these are actually in official documents that were Freedom of Information Act released. So they're doing this huge experiment, and they want to see, can I get a person to go into a room, pull out a loaded gun or one that they think is loaded during these experiments, and just fire it at another person.
Mm-hmm.
So they start these experiments, and they're successful. And they officially, quote, ended these experiments just a few years before Bobby Kennedy got killed in San Francisco by Sirhan.
Just coincidentally, that's when they stopped it.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, that makes sense.
And Sirhan has no memory of the event. And if you look at where Bobby Kennedy was shot, he was shot under the armpit and kind of from behind. All the bullet holes are actually listed out there. This is from our own government's investigation. It just kind of doesn't really match up very well. But Sirhan has no memory of the event. To this day, he says he has no memory. And if you have you had Bobby on?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. If you talk to him about this, he believes that Sirhan should be released.
He wrote a book about this whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did a documentary about it on my YouTube channel and talked about the hypnosis and how it could be done step by step, how somebody could have done this. I got some of the top hypnotists in the world to come on to that little documentary. It's a micro documentary. But talking about what are the steps that could be taken to get someone to a place where they can do this. So this brings us into PCP, not the drug. The PCP stands for a 3-step process that if I can modify 3 things in your life, I can get you to do anything. If I can modify perception, context, and permission, PCP. And if I just look at that,
Say that again. So
perception.
perception.
I change the way that you're seeing what's going on right now, which means kind of a domino effect that now I can modify the context and how you see this situation.
Okay.
And then I get
Context?
Context. So
Okay.
how are you seeing this? Like, everybody who is, let's say if we're in a business meeting, nobody's going to strip their clothes off and get naked, right?
You've not been in enough business meetings, but
I haven't been in yours.
give me the last P.
Permission.
Permission. Okay.
So it's perception, context, and permission. So
Okay.
the moment that we get home from that business meeting and we're standing in our bathroom, the context is different. So of course I'm going to take my clothes off because I'm getting in the shower. So any behavior is tolerable under some circumstances, and the only thing I've got to manipulate
Wow.
in your life
Right.
is the context. So if I can hypnotize you, I can get you to have another personality. I change your perception of what's going on. I modify context, and I can get you to do whatever I want. There's an attorney in Washington State who did this to his clients for women to get naked into his office. And people say, oh, you can't be made to do anything against your will under hypnosis. Well, it is within their will because it's within that context. So he would hypnotize these women in his office and say, you just got home from a long day at work. You throw your keys in the bowl. You walk into the bathroom. You've got a glass of wine, and now it's time to get into the shower. So now that we get naked because the context changed. If I can modify perception and context, I can justify anything. I can get you to do anything that I want.
So where are you going with this? You're saying the possibility of MK Ultra to get them in a state to cause them to kill someone
Yeah.
that nothing in the history of their lives, there's never been a pattern that this person was capable of doing something like this independently. No felony, no criminal record. All of a sudden, this person decides to take their lives.
Yeah.
They're able to get somebody to that point of doing something like that.
Yeah. But this is a perfect reflection back to the Milgram experiment. All those were good, decent people. They were school teachers and doctors and all of that, and they committed murder in under an hour. Just because the perception of what's going on changed, the context is way different, and there's permission from an authority figure to do it.
So when you were telling a story on MK Ultra, you brought somebody up. Who did you bring up? You brought up
Just now,
yeah.
Sidney Gottlieb, Dr. George Estabrooks.
No, you brought up somebody that you said Sirhan, and who were we just talking about that actually did this? So do you when you see somebody like a Matt Liversberger on What Happened?
Yeah.
And Sean Ryan and them and Sam read the email that he sent on the Sunday, right? Or I don't know what the day was.
Yes,
on a previous day. Do you think that's a case of this, or no? That's a different case. He was going through challenging times, and he wanted to kind of make a statement with it.
I think it's a different case.
You think what is a case of MK Ultra that could be a possibility of MK Ultra?
Bobby Kennedy.
What else?
Maybe this Tesla thing that's going on. This Tesla bombing that happened.
Oh, but that's Matt Liversberger. So you think he could be
a victim of something like that. But
could be a victim of MK Ultra.
Yeah, but I've worked on deployments with dudes like this, Spec Ops dudes, and I was in Expeditionary Combat Command for the last half of my career.
Mm-hmm.
No one, absolutely no one that would make it to that community, if they were going to want to cause a bunch of damage, is going to throw a bunch of gas and fireworks in the back of a solid steel vehicle and think that they're going to do a bunch of damage. Nobody. His training is 1,000 times above that. He could have done a lot more damage. Anybody that's been in special operations command or anything like that has tons of education in that stuff.
So dissect it. You said the ID that came out, right? These different things that came out.
Yeah.
Psychoanalyze it. I mean, what do you think happened there?
I don't know. I'm no expert.
What are possibilities? Like maybe it could be this, maybe it could be this, maybe it could be this.
Yeah. I do know that Teslas can be summoned. They can't be driven without someone with their eyes open, because they'll have you ever driven one?
Mm-hmm.
So they'll kind of ping you if you are looking away, if your eyes are closed. But they can be summoned without anyone in the car, or they can be summoned to a place. And I think if this guy was dead before the vehicle pulled up, that's the only way that it could have been done. And it's the only vehicle maybe. A Tesla might be the only vehicle that you can summon. I'm not very well educated on which vehicles can do that, but it definitely looks like that. And if you've ever have you ever fired a 50 cal?
Mm-hmm.
Not the big boy, but like a 50 cal pistol. That's like a 3-foot fireball. That would have shown up in a video. That's a giant fireball, huge.
What are you saying?
That would have shown up. So like if he did it right then, that would have definitely been in a video where you could see it through the windows. That's a massive, that's a big round.
Okay, so let me go to a different one here is proxy. Okay, we've had a lot of, in siblings, proxy could be siblings instigating a fight. If there's 3 siblings, one instigated fights between the other 2.
Yeah.
Right? Hey, I think he was wearing your socks today. I think he wore your cologne today. Hey, what do you think about the fact that this? Sometimes I don't think he appreciates you. Whatever, the proxies that happen at siblings level, right? And then it happens in company, sports teams. Coach just doesn't, I don't know why he doesn't put you in the game more. I think he should. And boom, friction there. You move down one more. I got another spot to move up. Proxy at a higher level of countries that create proxy wars and instigate additional, like even right now, hey, there could be a potential nuclear attack and Russia's going to be behind it. Oh my God, Russia's really going to be behind it, but it's not really Russia. It's really internally being done that's using this or using that. How do you, if anyway, how do you size those up and how are those done?
This is, now we're talking at the level of like statecraft stuff and not really PSYOPs. I don't really trust. If I hear multiple media outlets using the exact same messaging, instantaneously, I don't trust it. So that's my go-to.
Number one,
if I'm hearing the same exact reporting from multiple different sources, it's automatic that something is being forced into the news instead of the news is reporting. So that's what I teach my kids. Are you hearing repeating or are you hearing reporting? Those are 2 different things. And have you seen that one? Have you seen that compilation of all those news aids?
Of course, yeah.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
I think it was Sinclair or something like that.
It's being fed from the top to them. So let's go through a couple of these clips here, Rob. If you can pull up. First one I want to go through is Diddy. So here's Diddy Combs. He is on Breakfast Club. And Charlemagne the God is asking a question. A lot of people, I've interviewed a lot of people that claim Diddy took Tupac out. Okay, he's the one that killed him. Now, again, that's claims that have been made, right?
Yeah.
I just want you to give your feedback on his body language when Charlemagne asked, there's a documentary out that says you may have been behind the Tupac murder. And then watch how Diddy responds and what commentary you would have on this. Go ahead, Rob.
Now, it was this documentary that claimed, which we know wasn't true.
Yeah, check this out. We don't talk about things that are nonsense. We don't even entertain nonsense, my brother. So we're not even going to go there with all due respect, but I appreciate you as a journalist asking. Thank you.
Because listen, 7 years ago, I'd have been like, yo, did you hire somebody to kill Pac? But no, you do it like a journalist.
Yeah. No, I mean, we wouldn't even get into nonsense like that. You know what I'm saying? It's nonsense.
Which we never believed, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so do me a favor. Just mute it and keep it on kind of a repeat. So some of these behaviors, like, just so I can show you what some of these things are. So the first thing here, we have mouth covering and adapting. So when someone is taking control of things in their environment, so like if I sat down here and I was like scooting these things back and kind of pushing them over, aligning them, it's unnecessary movement. So we're seeing a lot of unnecessary movement. Mouth covering is one of the first behaviors that we learn when we are feeling the need to withhold information. Not saying deceptive, but withholding information. So what do you think have you ever seen a kid drop the F-bomb for the first time in front of their parents or something? They're instinctively reaching up to cover their mouth.
Right.
So it's built into us. That behavior is built into us. So right after that little movement towards the beginning, you're going to see him pushing into his face. This is called facial denting. And this is a pacification gesture, and it's meant to kind of burn off excess adrenaline from a high-stress question or a high-stress scenario. And we see a lot more hand to head, hand to head, hand to head. So all of those will factor up to a potentially very deceptive statement, but there's no deception when somebody's just saying, "Oh, I don't want to talk about that. You didn't ask me any direct question. I didn't give you any, or you asked a direct question. I gave you a nonsense answer or a non-answer." That looks a lot more avoidant than deceptive, because deceptive would be absolutely not. I had nothing to do with it, right? So the avoidant. Look at that. My video was on the recommended right there at the end.
Was it?
Yeah.
Interesting. So in this case, if you're watching this, what do you think? Like,
there's one more thing here.
What's that?
Towards the end, this is called rapid reaction. So like if I'm looking this way and then you started talking, and the moment you started talking, my head jerks over to you. So this is an orientation. It happens right at the 3/4 mark. Right. So right when he started speaking. So he's kind of jerking his head back towards him. So that fear increases the speed of our body. So if you think about the difference between
increases the speed of our body.
The difference between a Chihuahua hearing a noise in the house and a Rottweiler hearing a noise in the house, how fast their heads come up and orient toward what's going on. A Chihuahua is a lot faster, way faster, because they have to be more scared. So fear speeds up our bodies.
So you're calling Diddy a Chihuahua. I mean, he's going to be upset about that.
No, I didn't. I didn't do that.
You just called Diddy a Chihuahua.
For the record, I did not say.
So you're saying Diddy is scared. He is scared. That's why he's reacting the way he does. I don't mean by the animal side. I mean the fact that he is scared. That's why he's moving faster.
Yes.
Interesting.
So there's a fear response in our brain.
Yeah.
So there were probably 10 or 12 little indicators there of high stress and high fear.
In this case, what would your conclusion come up with? I'm trying to figure out what happened to my guy Tupac, man. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
It looks extremely avoidant. It looks like there is information there that it's what's called guilty knowledge. A person may be involved with a crime, may have committed a crime, may have witnessed a crime, but they have some kind of knowledge about the guilt of a crime. But that's what we look for a guilty knowledge.
Okay, let's go to the next one. Rob, the next one is, I showed this clip to Jim Jordan. And I don't know if I'm sure you know who Jim Jordan is.
Yeah.
You know, so there's a clip of President Bush and those guys getting an envelope, okay? And
oh yeah,
so I played it for Jim Jordan, and he is sitting there. He's like, I don't know what's going on. What do you think is in? It's the best clip to watch because he is oblivious when he doesn't know what's taking place here. And again, most people don't. But I wonder if you watch this, what do you think is really going on here? Everybody's being handed an envelope. Everyone reacts in a different way. Hillary Clinton acts like a pro. Obama acts like a pro. Jeb Bush and Barbara do not. Jeb Bush acts like an amateur here. Rob, if you want to go ahead and play the clip, go for it.
Like that bass.
What's going on here?
It's bizarre.
It's bizarre.
Yeah. And it's only some of the people apparently got these envelopes.
Right.
And you're seeing a lockdown reaction. None of them are showing any curiosity or interest in it. and it's an immediate bodily lockdown afterwards. You've noticed that?
Except for Jeb.
Jeb had some fear. So that was Jeb's breathing shifted in from his abdomen, which is comfort, to his chest, which is a high stress.
For context, this is at their father's funeral, right? This is at Rob. Is this George Bush Sr.'s funeral that this is being handed out to? And even mother shows it to Jeb, and then Jeb reacts, and George Bush, look at his lips, the mouth movement, but he's still holding it together.
Yeah, did George Bush get one too?
I don't know if he did.
So typically when you see this lip compression, which I think we saw it in Hillary, lip compression is almost always indicative of withholding. So withholding an opinion, withholding information. So you ask somebody like, oh, how do you like your new job? And they go, oh, it's great. So you see this withholding. Something else needs to come out.
I'm going to start asking people about that. How do you like your job? If you make that face, look, maybe you got to go find a different job. It's a good one.
We should take a camera and interview all your guys.
There's about 32% of your guys are not happy. They want to go get another job. We got to let them go, guys. Go find a different place. But so if that's the case, lip reading, okay, the lip, the one you're talking about, does that mean George Bush didn't like his job of being a president, or does it mean George Bush is not happy being there right now?
Maybe there's information being withheld. So withheld opinions about something, it just like this. But when you see it with the chin, when the chin comes up a lot into the motion, that's usually grief. And the cool study that was done here after 9/11 in New York, New Yorkers who would normally not communicate in any way shared this facial expression, and this well documented. It's fascinating to me. And they would look at each other and go, so they renamed this downward frown with the chin movement. This muscle right here is called our chin boss, and is as what's called a shared grief expression. So we may be seeing some grief there because his was downturned. And I think we see some pretty tight lips on Hillary while she's looking at it. What is it? Is it supposedly some kind of threat from the Skull and Bones Society or secret
Is that what you read about?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. I don't know. And the only thing with Hillary is, if you look at the way Hillary, Rob, if you want to turn off the audio, just put the way Hillary picks it up. I don't know why she lifts it. If you lift it, the people behind you can see it. So if you press play with Hillary, so that part is fine. But with the envelope, either she has a tough time, like she needs glasses, or she needs to get a surgery done with her eyes. But look at that. So the four people behind you can all see what you're looking at. And then if you look at it, it's got to be one word or two words.
Yeah.
So it's not like a sentence.
It's got to be short.
Dear Hillary, you're amazing. We will be having dinner later on tonight at Capitol Grill in the corner room.
Yeah.
Would you like steak, lobster, or chicken? It's not that.
Yeah, it can't be a lot of words at all. Or it's boring. And then maybe everybody got an envelope and this is some cherry-picked thing. And
so this could be...
I've done no investigation.
This could even be nothing based on the body language. The only person that to me is... I'd love to see Jeb Bush play poker. I mean, look at that.
Yeah, that'd be tough.
It'd be great. It'd be entertaining.
But let's always think of context. When we're looking at human behavior, we always want to think of clusters and context. I want to look for multiple signs. And in the context, we're seeing, I think his dad's coffin is going by. So we are seeing a high stress. We're seeing him breathe into his chest. So some of this may be, on the Bush side, some stress about the funeral.
I think on the Bush, I agree. Like, I think that, to me, can be seen because he's not looking at the envelope. So, but if you look at mom and son, youngest son, they have the same reaction. Mouth open is shocked.
Which mom? Laura?
Yeah. I'm sorry, wife. And wife and President Bush, the son's wife, and Jeb, their reaction is shock with the mouth being open.
Yeah. Hers is like, I don't know what to do about this. There's an immediate postural shift back, like showing that to Jeb there and then turning back to George.
You know, it's another thing that's very interesting is that when you are in limelight, everyone is judging you. Everybody's got their eyes on you.
Yeah.
It's constant. And this is at the highest level. You had a job that only 40 what, 5 people have had the job? I don't know what the number is because Trump's 45 and 47. It's 46 people have had the job, let's just say. So all eyes on you. Good, bad, ugly. You can't hide anywhere.
And you learn to lock it down.
How do you learn that?
I think the first thing, there's 2 ways. Number one is I don't think you get to that position without being able to lock your shit down.
Early on.
Yeah.
That's right.
You don't make it.
Right.
Number 2, they give them prescription drugs that are non-psychoactive to lock their behavior down and make their behavior more smooth and slow. A great example would be something like metoprolol, which is a beta blocker. So like 100 milligram extended release metoprolol. They also call it the stage fright drug or the public speaking drug, but it's just a heart and blood pressure medication. Propranolol is great. Beta blockers is what you give CEOs and stuff when they have a big speech to go make. This is what you give to the Steve Jobs when he's got to release the new iPhone on stage and that kind of thing.
What is it called?
Propranolol or metoprolol. They're all different classes of beta blockers, they regulate heart rate and blood pressure. So they're non-psychoactive. So not only you don't need them for the rest of your life, they help you to memorize those behaviors without being dependent on the drug like a Xanax that does have to be present for you to be calm.
So you could take this a few times and then the effects could be permanent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you ever taken it?
Yeah.
How did it work for you?
I've given it to my clients. Well, I've had the clients get it from a doctor, but they are fantastic. So it lowers your natural fear response rate. So your heart's not beating fast, so your brain is calming down a little bit more. And the second drug that they give them on top of this is something called methocarbamol, which is a non-drowsy muscle relaxer. And it just kind of relaxes the overall physiology of the body. So after a month or 2, these people, their bodies are learning these new behavioral pathways.
Rob is already ordering 48 tablets.
Awesome.
Rob already placed an order.
They're good. A funny thing is, if you study pharmacology, the interesting thing about the methocarbamol is that we don't know how it works yet. We know that it works, but we don't really know how, but we know it's not a psychoactive drug. So your brain's not dependent on that to learn how to be comfortable. So when I have a lot of clients that are high stress, they have high social anxiety, I will have them talk to their psychiatrist or their doctor and get that propranolol or metoprolol and the methocarbamol, which is the muscle relaxer, non-drowsy. It's good stuff. Robaxin is the
Let me tell
brand name.
You probably indirectly just sold so much of this you don't even know. There's probably numbers of orders being made right now.
I should have gotten an affiliate link.
People I should have gotten an affiliate link. No, because people that, wish they had for somebody that's in I'll never forget when Joe and I were doing a podcast and we talk about how you handle negative comments. And then Joe says, yeah, but you can't compare to us because we already have so much of it that it's like at this point you're going through it. A comedian who has spoken God knows how many times on stage, if you don't learn about this, you ain't going to make it in comedy for 10 plus years. If you don't learn how to control your emotions, how to handle the stress that comes with it. Public speaking, same thing as well. Interviews, all that stuff, but even in sales. But if the average person doesn't know it, you're saying this could help them lower the temperature and anxiety?
Without being psychoactive to where you're going to need it for the rest of your life.
So it's not like this is what's the Prozac or Zoloft. This isn't that.
Nope.
Interesting.
And it helps with that stage fright and stuff. And the thing that this is going to sound really cheesy if we have time. Do we have like 5 minutes?
Yeah, go for it.
Visualizing is the biggest mistake most people make is because we're visualizing and predicting the future all day, every day, all the time. And most people are visualizing things going bad. And getting better at visualizing, number one, and getting some training in how to do that better. And number two, deliberately visualizing results that you want is proven for Olympic athletes. It's proven for Formula One race drivers. The most incredible thing you'll ever see when it comes to visualizing is Can we bring up one more video?
Mm-hmm.
Look up Blue Angels flight briefing. Have you seen this?
Do you know Jim Murphy?
No.
But go for it.
Is he one of them? Yeah, you just need to kind of pull to about the halfway. Oh, I guess that second video had it where it said chair flying or something, but you got to get a premium YouTube subscription for them.
I get paid next Friday. It's once it comes, we'll add it to the
And from the right
expenses.
for the section high alpha. The diamond will be in from in front of the crowd for the burner 270. Out of the burner 270 will run a crowd right behind the crowd with airspeed calls, and the delta will be in from behind the crowd for the delta. Roll. Ease the pull. Rolling out.
I got goosebumps watching this.
Loop break. Cross.
Rocket jumps. Tootsie. Take it in.
Up we go. Vertical 5-5. Smoke on pull. Up we go.
Unbelievable, man.
Sick.
Vertical 4-5. Horizon 7-5 easing power idle.
So I was showing this to my kids because I kept telling them, well, you need to visualize what you want. And they're like, well, that's for babies. That's for babies. They're like, no, this is the highest performing individuals on planet Earth are doing this. Your SEAL teams, your Blue Angels, your top surgeons who are about to go through a surgical procedure that's going to be 10, 15 hours long, replacing some vital organs or spinal cord fragments and stuff. Everyone who's at the very, very top of the top does this visualization. Everybody's doing the visualization. They do it on purpose. I think that's the difference.
What prompted you to say this? Is it because we were speaking about public speaking fears and then you went into this? Why did you transition into this story?
If you're visualizing yourself failing on stage 50 times the night before and then you take these drugs, it's not a magic pill if you've been visualizing yourself acting like shit and having bad results. So this visualizing has to come with it. It's got to be part of the package.
Do you have an exercise of not having any facial reaction? Are you mentally yourself aware that you don't want to have any facial reaction when you're speaking?
Is this for I want to have lots of facial movement while I'm speaking. What do you mean?
You.
Yeah.
You don't show a lot of reactions, right? You're very stoic. Is that intentional?
No.
It's not.
I always thought I was more expressive.
You're being sarcastic.
What
right
an
now.
asshole.
This is intentional, right?
No.
Stop it.
I try. You know, when we go through.
Stop.
Man, I
You're
wish I could.
teasing me now.
I wish I could airdrop you a video.
This is a psyop, Rob. This is because you're sitting there so stoic, and I'm like, is that a learned skill for you, or is this your natural state you're always in?
It may be, but I thought I was a little more expressive. So
no, I think what gives you a certain authority, which I like, is the fact that you're stoic. You're here, and that's power.
Maybe more measured.
Maybe that's a better word. But you know, because I think sometimes it's kind of like this. You know, a guy. So you got a girl comes to the table. There's 5 guys. Okay, they're all 17 years old. Hot girl shows up. And it's like, oh my God, oh my, look at her. And one guy's just sitting there. Hi, what's your name? Right?
Yeah.
And she's kind of like, thank God one of these 5 isn't freaking nervous as hell. What's your name? My name is Chase Hughes. I am very stoic. But Patrick is an asshole. How are you doing?
That was my line. That was my line in high school.
That was my line. No, but the point is that over reaction to things you don't have. And I think that's good.
Maybe it's a composure.
I think that's very good. I think that's what we talked about earlier. Composure is contagious. I think that's a very good thing.
What do you think about the CEOs that you've talked to who built a company? I just want to get I'm basically just getting some free advice from you right now. I'm a CEO. I started a company. I don't want to be a business person. I hate being a business person. I want to go back to creative. I want to go back to writing and creating things and making cool stuff. And now I'm at 90% business, 10% creative work, which is my passion right now.
Are you making more money than ever before?
Yeah.
But money's not a driver to you?
Not really.
Is it a top 3?
Yeah.
It
probably.
is?
Yeah.
At this phase?
Yeah.
Okay. And why do you not like being a business person? Maybe what's the definition of a business person to you?
Going through email numbers. What's our open rate on this email? Here's our upsell and a cross-sell thing, and here's how these products are doing. We need to make these little tweaks. A business person could do all of those things.
Yeah. How many kids do you have?
4.
Okay, me too. We both have 4. What part of parenting did you not like when the kids were younger?
Checking homework.
What else?
Versus like the syllabus and stuff like that. Making lunches.
You didn't like that?
Hated that. That's about it.
That's about. Changing diapers didn't bother you?
No.
Pooping on you, peeing on you, sick, saliva, coughing, that didn't do nothing for you?
No.
Okay. So, for me, in the family life, there's certain things that I'm like, babe, I'm just not going to do that. Okay. Where I have the resources that I can hire someone to do.
Yeah.
I can hire a tutor. Doing homework, you can hire a tutor. If you have the resources, hire the tutor, have somebody work with them, right? But there are certain things as a parent that you can't match up and assign to somebody else that we have to do, right? There's certain things that we just can't do it. Hey, can you do me a favor and talk to my daughter every night for 15 minutes to make sure she's good emotionally, and if a guy or anything did anything to her, have that, because I don't have time. I got to do a conference call later on tonight. We can't match that up, right? I read a book many years ago that was called Thank God It's Monday, written by a psychologist. It's a very old book that these men who can't wait to be Monday to be away from the family. It's like, dude, I'm so freaking glad to be away from this is not the one. It's a very old one.
Wow.
Yeah. So the psychology finally realizes all these marriages and people he's sitting down. If you go to Images, Rob, you'll see it. No, go back to Images and I'll show you which one it is. It's a very, very old book. I'll find it and I'll post it. But it's a very, very old book called Thank God It's Monday. And it was about, so he finally realized, he says, marriages that worked and relationships that worked, the husband, you needed 5 to 15 minutes of one-on-one time with each of your kids and spouse every day. That's all it was. How was your day? One-on-one. We can't match that up.
Yep.
Right? Like my week starts Monday morning. All the businesses that we run, the business units, we get all the updates, but that's collective. So everybody kind of finds out what all the business units are doing. Then it's one-on-one attention. Meeting with Manek, that's the one right there from 1985. Yeah, that's the one. How to Prevent Success from Ruining Your Marriage.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's such a fascinating book from, 40 years ago that was written, that was, I think, recommended to me by a man named Craig. A very good book. And so the more I learned about family, parenting, spouse, husband, what can I not have somebody else do, right? These are things that you have to be thinking. Same with the business. In a business, then it becomes startup. Newborn, you have to do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Then when the company is a little bit more established, you can hire and train and have somebody do certain tasks that you don't want to do.
Right.
And then a part of it becomes at what phase of your life you're at. Like we consult for 10,000 businesses from 60 plus countries and we'll do engagements with them. And you'll see a lot of times where CEOs are like, dude, I'm so done. I'm so done doing this. I'm like, so tell me why. I've been working this thing for 30 years. I'm already worth 50 million. What is another 50 million worth to me right now? Nothing. My kids are this age. I just want to go see what this guy's going to do. He may have a shot at playing football, and I want to help him go through the next 4 years and da-da-da-da. Guess what? Cool. So
Go
then
do it.
adjust. So
Yeah.
because That's why I ask, where's money for you? You said it's a top 3, but it's not the main driver, right? Yeah. But if I'm in startup phase, every time in startup phase, I don't have a choice but to get back to being the guy that is needed on a daily basis.
Yeah.
My insurance company needs me maybe 2 hours to 5 hours a week. And that's the biggest business out of all the businesses that I just sold. But that's because I've hired so many and invested so much into technology. So for where you're at, do you know your next 5 moves with the company? Is it a build to sell? Is it a legacy thing? Is it a purely income play? Is it something that you want to step away and kind of go into your passion of content creation? Is the momentum of clients right now paying you so much that if you step away, it could be a 50% drop off in revenue and you can't afford to do that because of maintaining the lifestyle? There's so many questions I have to do and needs analysis on to see what's the best thing for you to do now.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, figure out what I can outsource that isn't, hey, can you tell my wife I love her every night?
No.
And read a book to my kids. But figure out what can
you don't
be
want to
replaced.
hire another man to tell her, honey, just so you know, Chase loves you.
Yeah.
And he just wants me to tell you
He's in a meeting right now. He says hi.
He says hi.
He says good night. He told me to kiss you on the forehead.
You're amazing. Yeah. Okay. But the point really with that is sometimes you don't have the luxury to hire yet. The one thing that most people don't pay enough, give enough credit to is an incredible EA can change your life. An incredible EA can make the load of life and pressures of company and everything so much better. When I was coming up in the insurance company I was building and I was at the phase where I was on the road 6 months out of the year, I had 4 assistants. Oh my God.
Was there a hierarchy to them?
There was one that was ahead, but it was, 2 of them would report to me directly, and then the other 2 were under the other 2. But they had certain responsibilities. Some was personal, some was business, some was relationship, someone's, hey, this guy's birthday's coming up, anniversary's coming up, we got to do this with this. So I can't believe that guy you're about to talk to, he's going through this. Keep that part of mine with this. Here's what happened with this. We have to follow with these guys. What would you like me to do with this guy? These are the gifts that I bought for this is coming up. You want to write a card real quick? It's like, I felt like I was freer.
Yeah.
And in life, in the business side, when I gauge, like without saying names, can you think of people you hired that immediately stress, tension went down dramatically?
Yeah.
Don't give the full name, but think about a person you hired where you're like,
oh yeah.
After I hired her, after I hired him, right? That's how I had. But can you think of people you hired that tension went up?
Oh, yes.
See?
Yeah.
So for me, I want to find more. Like I remember when I hired Tom Ellsworth, pillow got softer overnight. It was amazing. First real executive I hired that had background of executive that was helping out with org chart. We raised the first $1 million. We raised the $10 million. He was a great board guy, contacts, relationships. I slept better because I finally had somebody to share pressure with.
Yeah.
So that's the idea of great people you hire, somebody they can share pressure with. And then you go back to enjoying it. So it wasn't really that maybe you don't want to be a business person. It just may be the way you have hired your org chart today with the people that are working for you, you're not sharing pressure enough where you're carrying it all yourself, and you got to find a way to share that pressure and do where you shine. That could take 3 to 6 months for you to kind of, work on that. But I think somebody like you will figure that part out because you have composure and you're stoic. And I think that's going to help you out. But anyways, brother, this was amazing. Gang, we're going to is there a website you want people to go to where they can find things on you? Because we're going to, all those articles, if you send it to us, we're going to put in the description for people to find. But what is the website?
If you go to NCI.university, so NCI is our main website, and right on the bottom, there's a podcast link somewhere on the very, very bottom, and it's every single thing that we've talked about, plus other
Fantastic
stuff like that.
Fantastic. And you have a book. You have a book that is, you've written multiple books, and it's not even this one. I knew you go into the behavior ops. This is a tough one to find. If you can go to his main account, Rob Chase Hughes, there's a couple of them. They're right there. Those are the ones. The 6-minute X-ray, rapid behavior profiling, and Ellipsis Manual, and a few other books as well. We'll put the link. Which one of these links would you like us to put below? The 6-minute X-ray or?
The textbook is the best.
Okay, so the Behavior Operations Manual, which is this guy right here.
It's a big
one.
She's thick.
Yeah, that's great. Some people like it like that. But Chase, you're the man. Appreciate you. Really enjoyed it, buddy. Take care, everybody. God bless. Bye-bye, bye-bye. Nowadays, more than ever, the brand you wear reflects and represents who you are. So for us, if you wear a Future Looks Bright hat or a Valuetainment gear, you're telling the world, I'm optimistic. I'm excited about what's going to be happening, but you're a free thinker. You question things. You like debate. And by the way, last year, 120,000 people got a piece of Future Looks Bright gear with Valuetainment. We have so many new things. The cufflinks are here. New Future Looks Bright. This is my favorite, the green one. Just yesterday, somebody placed an order for 100 of these. If you watch the PBD podcast, you got a bunch to choose from. White ones, black ones. If you smoke cigars and you come to our cigar lounge, we have this high quality lighter cutter and a holder for the cigars. We got sweaters with the Valuetainment logo on it. We got mugs. We got a bunch of different things. But if you believe the future looks bright, if you follow our content and what we represent with Valuetainment, with PBD Podcast, go to vtmerch.com. And by the way, if you order right now, there's going to be a special VT gift inside just for you. So again, go to vtmerch.com, place your order, tell the world that you believe the future looks bright.